Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. I am incredibly excited to be your guide today, because we're essentially embarking on a true masterclass. If you're a focused learner, someone trying to figure out how our massive global economic engine actually intersects with the survival of our planet, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're breaking down the truly groundbreaking concepts from E.F. Schumacher's seminal 1973 book, Small is Beautiful. Now, this isn't just some dry economic critique. It's actually a profound, beautifully structured blueprint for living in harmony with nature. So let's settle in and get right to it.
Here's the syllabus for our intellectual journey today. 1. The diagnosis, examining the illusion of infinite growth. 2. The ethics of resource management. 3. The practical application, or what he calls technology with the human face. And 4. The conclusion, designing for permanence.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The diagnosis, the illusion of infinite growth.
I want you to really ponder this, maybe like an economics student in a grad seminar. Can infinite economic growth actually exist on a finite planet? I mean, for decades, our dominant capitalist systems have just pushed and pushed for limitless economic expansion. They tend to view growth strictly through the lens of physics and chemistry, basically assuming there's no real limit. But Schumacher argues that if you step back and look at this through the lens of environmental sciences, this relentless pursuit creates some absolutely decisive, catastrophic bottlenecks.
And this brings us to a brilliant illustration of his core critique. As Schumacher states, one of the most fateful errors of our age is the belief that the problem of production has been solved. Now, why is that an error? Well, because our modern industrial system, despite all its amazing, shiny intellectual sophistication, is literally consuming the very environmental foundation it's built on. We're taking the Earth's non-renewable resources and just treating them like they're going to last forever.
Schumacher points out that this whole crisis ultimately boils down to a massive accounting failure. Think about it. Modern society tends to treat nature as income. We just spend it limitlessly, which fuels materialism, overproduction, and overconsumption. But Schumacher insists we absolutely have to view nature as capital. It's finite. It's the irreplaceable true source of our wealth. And our failure to distinguish between renewable ecological income and irreplaceable ecological capital, well, it's turning us into these automated drudges devoid of humanity, all while bankrupting the planet.
Moving right along, Section 2, the ethics, resource management.
So during a 1955 trip to Burma as an economic development advisor, Schumacher had this realization. He realized that the Western economic model doesn't just automatically suit every single nation. So he formulated this massive paradigm shift that he called Buddhist economics. Basically, it's an economic philosophy focused on logical consumption and actually valuing human labor. The goal here is to hit the absolute maximum of human well-being with the absolute minimum of consumption. Instead of just treating labor as, a mere factor of production to be replaced by machines as soon as possible, it views work as a dignified, almost artistic process. It's fundamentally a system of right livelihood.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between these two worldviews. On one hand, you've got the modern Western model, which can become spiritually, morally, and ecologically fragmented. It pushes materialism, it chases infinite growth, and it often ends up forcing humans to basically serve the machines. But on the flip side, the Buddhist economy model takes an ecology-first, highly human-centric approach. In this system, machines serve human creativity, and the whole thing operates in total harmony with nature, prioritizing actual liberation over just an endless craving for wealth.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, the practical application, technology with a human face.
Schumacher makes it incredibly clear that it all starts right in our heads. He states all economic development comes out of the mind of man. That means our primary resources aren't just coal or oil or steel. They are education, organization, and discipline. So when we talk about aiding developing nations, just dumping mass-produced goods on them or forcing rapid urbanization doesn't actually solve poverty. True development means empowering the human mind and fostering local discipline. Without those human factors, all those physical resources just sit there, totally idle.
Which leads us to an absolutely crucial concept in this lesson, intermediate technology. We're talking about equipment that is gentle, it's non-violent, it completely aligns with the laws of ecology. The goal of technology shouldn't just be to replace workers so a select few at the top can maximize mass production profits. No, it should be explicitly designed to serve the human person. It should keep people actively and creatively engaged in their own economic survival.
So how do we actually identify this intermediate technology? Well, Schumacher lays out 3 strict criteria, almost like an engineer's checklist for sustainability.
Number one, it's got to be cheap enough to be accessible to virtually everyone, not just massive corporations. Number two, it needs to be suitable for small-scale application. And number three, it must be totally compatible with man's inherent need for creativity. This completely redefines what progress actually looks like in technological development.
And that brings us to Section 4, the conclusion, designing for permanence.
Okay, first we have to look at the severe consequences of getting this wrong. Schumacher highlights a phenomenon that plays out almost like a stark documentary film, the dual economy poisoning. Basically, when we ignore small-scale rural development and focus entirely on urban industrialization, it completely destroys the economic structure of the rural hinterland. And what happens next? The hinterland basically takes its revenge through mass migration into the cities. This literally poisons the cities, making them overcrowded, polluted, and utterly unmanageable. It's just a cycle of mutual destruction.
To prevent this total collapse, Schumacher argues we have to achieve smallness within large organizations, because even massive, sprawling institutions need to be structured in a way that retains small-scale creative freedom and accountability. He outlines 5 principles to do exactly this. 1. Subsidiary, meaning the burden of proof is on anyone who wants to take power away from a lower local level. 2. Vindication, which is allowing accountability without overly rigid, suffocating mechanics. 3. Identification, giving smaller units their own balance sheets so they track real impact. 4. Motivation, recognizing that lower-level employees need actual mental satisfaction, not just a paycheck. And 5. The middle axiom, a practical way for top management to navigate the messy reality of implementing innovation throughout a giant, complex system.
So the crucial point here is how we scale these models ethically, particularly regarding ownership. In a small-scale enterprise, Schumacher argues that private ownership is totally natural, fruitful, and just. Owning a community business is a real, tangible, operational reality. But in a massive, large-scale enterprise, private ownership turns into this strained, abstract fiction. It risks becoming parasitic on the labor of others and deeply destructive to society and the environment. At that massive scale, organizations actually require a much more democratic and dignified system of industrial administration to protect the public interest.
And this brilliantly illustrates our ultimate overarching thesis for today's lesson. Economics is a subset of ecology. I mean, it sounds so simple, right? But it fundamentally shatters the conceptual rigidity of modern economics. For way too long, we have treated ecology as a subset of economics, basically assuming nature will just magically bend to our financial models and our desire for infinite growth. A truly humanistic economic movement requires us to reverse that thinking entirely. Economics absolutely must operate strictly within the finite limits of our natural resources to ensure long-term global security.
And that brings us to the end of our source material, but honestly, it's really just the beginning of your own application. Schumacher's goal wasn't just to write an academic critique. He wanted to inspire a totally new way of living in harmony with nature. So I'm going to leave you with this really vital question to ponder. How will you begin to evolve a lifestyle designed for permanence? Seriously, think about your own consumption, your connection to the ecology around you, and the actual scale of the technology you rely on every day. I really hope this explainer has sparked your curiosity to explore these ideas even further. Keep questioning, keep learning, and thank you so much for joining me today.